Hi, this is Rock. We're going to take a step back because I never properly addressed what array formulas are, and they can be confusing. But let's take a look and see what actually is going on with array formulas. What I've got here is a list of house square footage, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and the cost of a house that's listed for sale. What if we wanted to find out the cost per square foot of a house? This is simply the math between equals this cost divided by the square footage. So in this case, it's $243.19 per square foot. Let me click on that to make it an accounting format. Now, one thing I could do is drag this formula down, use Control-D to paste it down. What I've got now are 27 formulas. That's not actually necessary. What we could do instead is just have one formula in this, because it's all the same formula. We could have just one formula that does the dividing and just have it spill and give an answer applicable to each row. That's all an array formula is, something like that. So I'm going to say equals this divided by this. And I'm just going to select the whole range and hit enter. I get the same thing. These are the same answers, but something's a little different about it in that if I come into here and I want to change this and say, actually, let's round that up to 192, or I just want to type 192, I'm going to get a spill error up here because the array formula is trying to spill into these other cells, and this is blocking it. The number that I typed into M16 is blocking the formula. So to fix a spill error, you just need to clear what is in its way. So I'm going to hit delete, I clear that, and then it's able to spill into there. Array formulas can also go to the side. It's not just limited to a column. It can go off to other columns depending on what your calculations are. Here are a couple of things that are great about array formulas. If I say, what's the average cost per square foot? If I put that here, I can say average, and then instead of selecting this range, I can refer to that whole range by clicking here and then typing the pound sign. The pound sign is what tells me that in that cell I have an array formula or an array range that I can just refer to with the pound sign and then hit enter, and that gives me the range there. A great thing about this way to refer to things with the array reference is that then if this changes sizes, if I add more data to it, this will not change. This reference would need to change if I added new rows to this. If I came in here and said I've got a new house I'm looking at, it's 5,300 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and it costs $1,100,000, then to get this to be included, I'm going to need to change these ranges to 8 and 8 respectively, and then hit enter. But notice that I did not need to change this. It still refers to that whole thing. So using array-based references is very handy and something I try to achieve because it makes things much easier. You don't have to go back and change things. All right, to get back to the definition, an array versus a range is its spilling into that. And there are a number of array formulas that we've already talked about. Sequence is the most obvious one that I have used quite a bit. See how this array spills into columns and rows, 5 and 5 respectively. And now when I refer to that, if I say equals this plus 10, it's just going to be 11. But if I put the pound sign after the 011 reference, then it'll add 10 to everything in there. So the power of array formulas is really amazing. Some of the other array formulas we've done, like trim range, make array, drop, take, filter, unique, transpose, all these other ones are actually array formulas, and they take arrays as their input. So if I do a drop, the argument it's looking for is an array. We can drop 2 rows from that. So at the beginning of using Excel, it may seem intimidating to be doing math with arrays. But as you advance, you've got to adapt to using arrays because it's just going to be so much more productive and powerful for you. So let's make an array formula over here as an example. If I say if this array is greater than 12, then this array times 3. Otherwise, just keep that array. So once it hits 13, it multiplies it by 3. So you can create these formula that take advantage of the logic and other things in Excel. You can use what you've already learned for non-array formulas and apply them in array situations, and it will work. There will be some that will not work. For example, let's say if I wanted to say if it's even, multiply it by 3, otherwise keep it the same. So if I take this and I insert an is even formula in here around this 011 and I hit enter, it's going to give me a value error because the is even is trying to do the whole array. Is the whole array even? And what we really need to say to it is do these one at a time, which is where you would use something like a map function, where you would say map this array where the lambda is, I'll say A for array, and then is even, and then A, and then close that map, and then hit enter. So if it's even, multiply it by 3. If it's odd, let it be there. So you see how that worked out. You sometimes need to coax it into doing array formulas by using map or by row or by column and some other accommodators of the array formulas. But working in array formulas, I promise you, is the way to go when you work with large data sets. So that's array formulas. Next, we're going to look at recording macros. See you then.